Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call, particularly those of you calling in for the first time and those that will be listening to the replay over the next 24 to 48 hours. We like to move quickly through these calls, bottom line the information for you. Over the last several weeks, we have dispensed with our normal call and dealt specifically with the information having to do with the reinstatement and revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. That's been because we've been inundated with trust requests. That still remains the case. However, we have finally gotten a handle on everything. I suspect by the end of this week we will be almost entirely caught up. So we are anticipating returning to a normal call next week and for the foreseeable future. That's not a guarantee, but that's what we're projecting right now based on, the workload that we have and getting out all of the things that we need to get out. But for the benefit of our existing clients and those new callers that would like to, know a little bit about us and where we stand with regard to the revaluation of these currencies, we're going to go ahead and provide with you on a week-to-week basis, at the very least, the information that we think you want to learn more about. So let's go ahead and talk about the situation in Iraq today. And as I say on each call, we continue to believe that the dinar is the base currency for the potential reset of all of these other pre-valued currencies. And so that seems to us to be the most important perspective to view all of this. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of the dinar and these other currencies. We're not advocating either the purchase or sale of these currencies, but as rather substantial currency holders ourselves, we're sharing with you the information we think is most relevant. And, of course, the most relevant piece of information would be the window for the potential reinstitution of the dinar in country. And we're looking at April/May still as the period where the dinar could reinstitute in country. Now, we're coming close to the end of April. I understand that. But a lot is happening. It's happening on a lot of different levels, and it's happening incrementally, but we are moving in the right direction. A couple of things, of course, do need to happen. The Iraqi government needs to complete, or rather the CBI needs to complete the project to delete the zeros, and I'll get into that in a moment. And the other issue is, as we speak, 90% approximately of the revenue generated to the Iraqi government comes from the sale of petroleum. So that industry and that sector is critical as well to the reinstitution of the dinar. And what's transpiring right now, finally, is moving us in the right direction in this one area. Of course, oil production is beginning to increase substantially. Their concerns are securing the facilities for the refinement of petroleum. They want to tweak the oil and gas law and make sure that there's equitable distribution of the revenue from the sale of petroleum. They also want all of the corrupt practices to stop, which is some of the black market sale of petroleum to unauthorized countries, skimming of some of the profit from some of the officials involved, and also they're going to need Kurdistan to pay all of its back dues, which should be easily accomplished given the substantial increase in the price of a barrel of oil by more than 50% over the last 90 days. Now, what's most important as far as we're concerned are the CBI operations that are going on right now. Now, we know that the IMF is very anxious for the reinstitution and the revaluation of the dinar, and they're very bullish on CBI's progress with regard to the reforms in the white paper. Now, the IMF's concern is not our concern. Our concern is the revaluation of the dinar so that we can go to the bank and conduct our exchange. The IMF's concern is more long-term. Their objective is the establishment of a one-world digital currency. And an incremental step to accomplish that is to have currencies like the dinar, particularly a country as wealthy as Dinar, to no longer have their currency pegged to the U.S. dollar, but pegged to the IMF basket of currencies. Now, as far as I'm concerned, a one-world digital currency is a really bad idea. It's great for the control freaks, but decentralized currencies makes a little bit more sense. So from our perspective, what our objective is going to have to be is once the dinar does revalue, and before the IMF can complete whatever it is they have in mind, is to move that money into other areas, whether it's cryptos, whether it's precious metals, real estate, tangibles. But we want to get a substantial amount of our net worth out of the financial markets and the currency markets so that we can retain control of that wealth. Now, the IMF is moving forward. We're in the final stages of the project to delete the zeros. Now, the devaluation of the provisional Iraqi dinar was the last phase or the last step in the deletion of the zeros. What they've done by devaluing the currency is a couple of things. On a governmental level, it does provide more liquidity for them. They're going to need the dinar because they've got to preserve the U.S. dollar reserve because that's how they pay their government employees, and most Iraqi citizens are government employees. But the devaluation of the dinar also empowers, or what's the word I want, influences the Iraqi citizen that is hoarding the dinar to exchange it or to turn it in because their fear is going to become worth less and less the longer that they hold it. Now, that's good from a governmental perspective, but for the average citizen, short term at least, it's highly inflationary. But from our perspective, the only solution to that is going to be to adjust the exchange rate against the U.S. dollar. So, again, we're moving incrementally in the right direction. The devaluation of the Iraqi dinar will complete the project to delete the zeros, which will then allow Iraq to adjust its exchange rate against the U.S. dollar, which in turn will allow us to go to the bank and do our exchanges. Now, another thing that's going on in Iraq, which is a good sign also, is that they seem to be opening up the country and asserting their independence. For example, Iraq has recently sponsored meetings between the Saudis and the Iranians. Now, this is important for a number of reasons. First and foremost, because they want to stop the attempted hegemony of any of the sectarian groups in the Middle East. Geographically, Iraq is located between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Iran, to the east, has been interfering in the affairs of Iraq and the Sunnis in Iran. Excuse me, the Shia in Iran. The Sunnis, which are part of Saudi Arabia and, of course, are probably involved with the establishment of ISIS, of course, have intruded into Iraq from the north and from the west. So what Iraq's basically saying is, look, we need to have a dialogue. We need to have peace in the Middle East region. We seem to be geographically located in the center of all of this. And per square mile, Iraq may be the richest country in the Middle East. So everyone should basically just relax and allow a peaceful friendship between all of these neighboring nations. Iraq is also beginning to open its borders to foreigners for a couple of reasons, and they've done this despite the problems that they've had with COVID. One of the reasons is they want to invite international investors and contractors into the country to help with the building of their infrastructure. And once again, since they need their U.S. dollars to fund their governmental organization in country, they're going to need to use the dinar, and it's not going to work until the currency is reinstituted and revalued. The other thing that they want to do is they need to diversify. Right now, 90% or more of their revenue to the government comes from the sale of petroleum. And they're rich in other things. They've got natural resources, they've got farming, they've got precious and industrial metals. But one area, which is a little bit overlooked, but which is critical, and which is one that they can implement immediately at a much less cost, is tourism. We have to remember that Iraq is in the Tigris-Euphrates Delta. Their history goes back thousands of years. The Sumerians probably can be credited with establishing the first sophisticated society. One of their kings, Hammurabi, was one of the first rulers, if not the first ruler, to establish a very sophisticated system of civil and criminal law. This is the Babylonians. One of the seven wonders of the world were the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. So tourism would be a very, very lucrative revenue source for Iraq as well. So in summation, they are incrementally moving in the right directions. They're cleaning up the problems that they had in the oil industry and the oil sector. The CBI operations are completing the project to delete the zeros. The lower denominations are in the possession of the 8 regional banks. They're opening the nation to outside investment. They're trying to diversify in terms of the national revenue. They're trying to establish peaceful negotiations not only with the countries but with the sects, the religious sects that have been warring for literally a millennia. So everything's moving in the right direction, and this leads to, in our opinion, reinstitution quite possible before the end of the month of May. Now, for those of you calling in for the first time, starting probably, not absolutely, but probably next week, we're going to give you a much more in-depth discussion of the turnkey program we've put in place to assist you. But if the things we've discussed here are of interest, and if you'd like to know a little bit more about how Trust Unlimited can assist you, I suggest you contact us to get our initial no-obligation package. You can go to our website, which is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc.com. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc@gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about what we can offer, I would also suggest that you go and listen to the replay of our call from March 3rd. To listen to that call, you can either go to YouTube and then go to Trusts Unlimited and then pull up the call of March 3rd, or you can go to IQD calls and pull up that call as well. But either way, you'll be able to get the in-depth description of the turnkey program we've put in place to assist you both pre- and post-RV. So again, in closing, I do believe we will probably resume our normal calls starting next week. But even if that is not the case, that information is available through the sources that I just described. And things are moving in the right direction in Iraq, and hopefully will be in the banks before the end of May, or at the very least, if it reinstitutes late in May, by the end of June. That's our hope. And if I had to make a call today based on the information at hand, that's where I would have to conclude. That's what I would have to conclude. So again, thanks for listening to the call. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and next Wednesday, we'll try to get an emergency call and an emergency email out about that call right away. But failing that, we will be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks very much for listening, everyone, and have a great week. Bye-bye.